Hello everyone. In this lesson, we will begin building the blog aspect of our website. Without further ado, let's dive right in. So you know that by default, out of the box, WordPress makes your homepage a generic blog listing, right? It displays all of your most recent blog posts. However, in the theme that you and I are currently building, that's not the case, right? We've implemented a custom homepage template. So in our case, if we go up to the address bar, what I'm trying to say is we don't want the root of our domain or the homepage of our website to be a blog listing. Instead, if I add on maybe /blog, we would want a URL like this to be the generic blog listing on our website. So right now, let me show you how to set that up. Let's begin by jumping into the WordPress admin, and what we want to do is create two new pages. So pages, add new. For this first new page, let's name it home, and we can leave the body area completely blank. Go ahead and save or publish. And then let's create a second new page, so add new again. And let's name this page blog. And again, we can leave the body area blank. Go ahead and publish. And now this is where things get interesting. If you look in your WordPress settings menu towards the bottom of the sidebar, within this settings pop-out menu, click on the reading option. Now this very first setting is the one that we're interested in. This is where you tell WordPress what your front page or your home page should display. Now by default, it's set to your latest posts, but instead we can click this option that reads a static page, and now we can manually set our front page and a blog posts page. So let's use these menus, and you can choose from any page that you've created so far. So let's set the front page to the home page that we just created a moment ago. And then let's set the posts page to the blog page we created just a moment ago. Cool, let's go ahead and save our changes down at the bottom here. And now if I go back to the home page of my website and refresh, we see that new page we created just a moment ago named home. And on the other hand, if we go up into the address bar and go to /blog, the slug for that blog page that we created just a moment ago is being treated as our generic blog screen. Now this is a little bit confusing at the moment because this looks like our homepage template, right? And it really is, and that's because we have all of our homepage code in our theme folder's index.php file. So if things aren't making a lot of sense at this very moment, that's okay, but let's do something right now that I think will make everything fall into place mentally in our minds. So here's what I want you to do. In your theme folder, jump into index.php, and I want you to copy every line of code in this file into your clipboard. So to select everything, you can press Command A or Control A, and then just copy it into your clipboard. And what I want to do now is create a brand new file in our theme folder. So new file in the root of the theme folder. And I want to name this new file front-page.php. Now within this brand new front-page.php file, go ahead and paste in your clipboard and then save. Cool, so we've just created basically a duplicate copy of our index.php file. And this front page template is what will actually be used for our home page. Whereas our older index.php file will now be used to power the generic blog listing screen. So back in index.php, we can just delete everything. And just as a test, let's say this is the generic blog listing screen template. Right? It doesn't matter what we say. Let's just write a little message and save. So now if we refresh the root of our domain, just our home page, we see our home page, and this is being powered by front-page.php. If we go up into the address bar and go to /blog, this is being powered by index.php. So let's jump into that file in our text editor. Let's delete this test message, and we always want to begin by jumping into PHP. And why don't we kick things off by including our header, right? Our universal header. So git header. And let's also include the universal footer. So get footer. And just those two lines will give us this. And now we just need to add in a bit of meat and potatoes between the header and footer. Let's begin by adding a banner up at the top of the page. And instead of manually typing out the HTML to create a banner area, what we can do is just jump into our page.php file. And the first bit of HTML that we see on this page is a div with a class of page banner. So why don't we just copy that div into our clipboard, and then back in our index.php file, in between the header and footer, let's drop out of PHP on this line, and then drop into PHP on the beginning of this line, so then we can have HTML where the cursor is right now, and then just paste in the clipboard. And then let's edit the text that this large H1 headline outputs. So within the H1 tags, let's delete this dynamic PHP, and instead let's just hard code a bit of text that reads, "Welcome to our blog." And then this subtitle text also doesn't need to be dynamic, so we can delete this placeholder text. And why don't we say, "Keep up with our latest news." Cool, so let's check that out. Looks good. Next, let's begin outputting the blog posts right about here. Now, back in our text editor, if we include a little bit of HTML right after this div, hello, you'll notice that it's aligned to the very left edge of the screen, and that's not what we want, right? We want our content to sort of live in the centered portion of the page. So this is just an HTML and CSS matter. It has nothing to do with PHP or WordPress. So what we want to do is create a container div that our blog posts can live in, and the job of this div is to center the content, as well as add a bit of vertical spacing. Now I could tell you the exact class names to add to this div, but that would be a lot of typing. Instead, you can just jump into the page.php file, and right below the page banner div, you'll notice a div with a class of container, container narrow, and page section. Now instead of typing all of this out, why don't we just copy this opening div tag into our clipboard, and then back in index.php, let's just replace our opening div tag and paste that in. Cool, so now within this div, if we add a little bit of text that says hello, perfect. So now, instead of just outputting the word hello, let's begin outputting actual blog posts. So delete the hello and open up PHP. And within PHP, let's begin with a while loop. So while, parentheses, curly brackets. And we're using a while loop because we want to do something once for each blog post. So within these parentheses, we need to answer the question, how many times should this loop run? So let's say, keep looping as long as the following is true. Have posts. And that's a function, so give it its own parentheses. Okay, then within the curly brackets, what do we want to do for each post? Well, we always want to begin by calling a function named the post, because that will get the appropriate data ready for each post. And now from here, we are free to do whatever we want. So I'm going to drop out of PHP so I can type in a bit of HTML. So let's be sure to enter back into PHP on this line to close out the while loop curly bracket. So then between those two lines, we can write HTML. Let's begin by creating a div, and let's give it a class of post item. This class will create a border and a bit of vertical space in between each individual post. Okay, and within this div, let's output a headline with the title for each post. So why don't we create a heading level 2? And we want this title to be clickable, right? We want it to be a link that takes you to only that one post. So let's open up an A tag to make it a link. Give it an href value of just a hashtag placeholder for now. But within the link, the text that we want people to see is the title. So let's go into PHP, and to output the title, you just run the title function. Okay, and then for the href value, instead of the placeholder hashtag, let's go into PHP and use the function named the permalink. And why don't we go ahead and save this and see what it looks like. Now, instead of only displaying a headline link, I think we should also show maybe the author and date that the blog post was published and a quick excerpt from the body content. So back in our text editor, underneath this heading level 2, why don't we create a new div that has a class of metabox. That has nothing to do with PHP or WordPress. It's just a CSS class that I created for us that will make things look nice. And within that metabox div, let's create a paragraph. And why don't we say posted by, and then this would be the author name. For now, you can just hard code your name, but in just a few moments, I'll show you how to make that flexible and pull from real WordPress author data. So posted by a name, on, and then a date, right? The date that it was posted. So for now, I will just hard code that to June 8th of 2017. I'll show you how to make the date real and dynamic in just a moment. And then let's say in what category it was posted in. So maybe in news. And again, we'll make this category dynamic in just a moment. Okay, now below this metabox div, why don't we create another div with a class of generic content. Again, this is just for styling and design purposes. And within that generic content div, let's drop into PHP and let's output either the content or an excerpt. So you could say the content, and that would give you the full body field. Or if you just want to show a little bit, you can say the excerpt. Let's save this and see what it looks like on the front end. Now I'm noticing that I'm not seeing the metabox styling for this paragraph that I was hoping to see. So if we jump back to the text editor, this metabox div, let's change the class name to remove the dash. Again, that has nothing to do with PHP or WordPress. It's just a CSS issue. Cool, so we've got the post title, a little bit of info about the post, and then an excerpt. Next, why don't we add a button or link below the excerpt that will take you to the full blog post? Or in other words, the single view for that post. So back in the text editor, right below this the excerpt, let's just create a paragraph. And then let's create an A tag to create a link. And let's say continue reading. Okay, and let's go ahead and fill out the href for the link. So href equals, drop into PHP, and echo out the permalink. Let's save that. Give it a test. Cool, so there's the continue reading link, but if we give that element a couple of CSS classes, it will actually look like an appealing button. So on that A tag that we just created, why don't we give it a class of btn, which is short for button, and btn -- blue. Cool. Next up, before we go ahead and make this information real and dynamic, why don't we improve the styling of the headline? It would look nice if it used a larger font and maybe we got rid of the underline. So back in our text editor, here's that heading level 2. Let's go ahead and give it a class of headline and another class of headline -- medium and a third class of headline -- post - title. So if we save that, cool, I think that looks a lot better. Next, let's make it so that this metabox info is not fake and hard-coded, but instead pulls in real dynamic information. So here's that paragraph posted by the author's name on a certain date in a certain category. So let's hollow out each 3 of those things one by one. Let's start with the author's name. So I will delete the hard-coded Brad, and then instead let's drop into PHP and call a WordPress function named the author posts link. Okay, so if I save that and refresh, we notice a few things. So number 1, now it's a link, and if you click on it, it takes you to an archive of all the posts just from that one author. But the other thing we notice about this link is that my name is not capitalized. So in order to control how your WordPress username is being displayed here on the front end, what you can do is go into the WordPress admin, and towards the bottom of the sidebar, we see users, and go ahead and click on your profile. So about halfway down the screen, we see this name section. Now this is your username, and that cannot be changed. But what I can change is my nickname field. So I can change that to uppercase Brad. But once you type that, then you can change this field that says display name publicly as, and now you can choose your nickname instead. So then if I scroll down to the bottom of this page and click the update button to save, now back on the front end of my website, when I refresh, that's the name we see. All right, next, let's focus on learning how to work with real dynamic dates. So back in our text editor, posted by the author on, and then a date. So we don't want a fake hard-coded date here, so let's delete that. And let's drop into PHP to dynamically output the date that each post was posted on. So to do that, we're going to use a WordPress function named the time. Now, if we just go ahead and save without passing any arguments within the parentheses, we see a time format that isn't very useful or intuitive to the visitors of our website. So instead, what we want to do within these parentheses is we can tell WordPress how to format the date. So for example, if I say quotes uppercase F, that will output the month in which the post was published. Or instead of an F, if I say uppercase Y, that will output the year in which the post was published. So you can format the date however you want. So it's up to us to string together these different codes that represent either the month, year, or day. Now you're probably thinking, how am I supposed to know these magical codes? Like, how did I know that Y is the year or that uppercase F is the month? Well, I don't expect you to memorize that. Instead, if you Google for WordPress the time, one of the first results will be the WordPress codex. And what I do is scroll down to the parameters area, and then I look for this link called Formatting Date and Time. This screen will show you all of the codes for formatting dates that you will ever need. So if you scroll down a little bit, here is a super useful graph, and if I highlight this left-hand column, these are the different codes that will give you the month, year, or day. So for example, here's the uppercase F, and that returns the full textual name of a month. If instead you use an uppercase M, that will give you just the first 3 letters of the month, right? And obviously here is Y, which gives us the year. Then up here are the day codes. So it's up to you how you want to format the date, but in my case, I want to begin with a numerical representation of the month, and then I'll have a period, and then I want a numerical representation of the day, and then I'll end with just a 2-digit that represents the year. So back in my text editor, within the parentheses for the time, let's say N, and then you could either add a space or a dash. I'll do a period, it doesn't matter. It's up to you how you want to separate the date, month, and year. But then J is the code for the day, and Y is the code for the year. Okay, so if I save that and refresh the front end of my website, cool, so that's exactly what I was looking for. I created these blog posts on May 12th. All right, now for the final detail of this lesson, let's focus on the category that gets output. So back in our text editor, instead of hard coding that to the word news, let's delete that, and let's drop into PHP and call a function named getTheCategoryList. Now we do want to pass this an argument. Now if a post has multiple categories, whatever we type here is what will be separated between the 2 category names. So you could say and or ampersand, but I just like to include a comma and then a space. So if we save that and refresh, whoops, we don't see anything. And that's because I forgot my own rule. When a function begins with the word get, that means it's not going to echo or output anything for us. It's just going to return data. So right before that function, let's echo it. Okay? So this post doesn't have a category, so it just says posted and uncategorized. Why don't I create a test post just so we can see everything in action? For the title, maybe we won an award. Paste in some dummy content. And here's the important part. Over in the sidebar, let's be sure to assign it a category. So maybe add new category. I will create a category named awards. Cool, so that's set. Let's publish and refresh the blog on my website. We won an award, posted on June 8th, and in the category of awards. That's it for this lesson. Let's keep it rolling, and I will see you in the next one.